Welcome to Stories in Time in Focus. My name is Ellouise Schoettler. I'm your storyteller and host today. And if you watch In Focus, you're going to know that we have a special guest. Our guest today is Michael Zhuang, and we're going to see him right away. Hi, thank you for coming. Yeah, Michael is relatively new to the storytelling world here in Washington. I've heard his stories, which are really well told and very interesting, and you're doing some interesting things. I wanted to have you in so we could find out more about you. Tell us, why did you start storytelling?
Ellouise, it's a long story. It started 10 years ago when I was still a hedge fund manager in Florida. As a hedge fund manager, I sit in front of a computer all day long and just make money. I make good money, but at some point I question what I'm doing. Other than making money, do I have any positive input to the society? Do I have any positive impact on other people's lives? So I was wondering.
Those are big questions.
That's right. And one day I got a call from my doctor, my own doctor, and he said, "Michael, I can't be your doctor anymore." And I said, well, why? Why? Is it my insurance? I can pay cash. And he said, no, it's because I had pancreatic cancer.
Oh.
It was a shocking news.
Sure it was.
And then he asked me, Michael, you're the only financial guy I know. Can you come help us? Because my wife and I was totally ill-prepared for this. I wasn't a financial planner, but I just couldn't say no to him at the time. So I ended up put down my work and flew back to Maryland and meet his family and help him prepare legally and financially all the paperwork, etc. 3 months later, he passed away.
Oh, wow.
But before he left, he said, Michael, I have peace of mind. And then I stayed on board to help his family, his wife and 2 children, making the necessary adjustment to the new life. And a few months later, his wife just grabbed my hand and said, Michael, I don't know how much I can thank you because I wouldn't have been able to handle all of this without you. And that's the first time I felt that I've done something meaningful and impactful, possibly on someone else's life.
Right.
It's so much different than just sitting in front of a computer and make money. So I ended up changing my company into a wealth management firm, focusing on working on doctors and entrepreneurs who tend to be ill-prepared for their retirement and like emergency, like I just mentioned about. And then once I started the business, I realized that my speaking skill is so weak.
Well, it isn't now, but we don't know you as a weak speaker.
That's right. When I started the business, I realized I could not communicate with people at all, especially stranger. I got like when in front of a stranger, I'm frozen. My tongue are tied. So I thought to myself, either I see my business fail, or I have to overcome my weakness as quickly as possible. And what other way to overcome my weakness than put myself in front of 100 people on stage and tell them story. Yeah.
Is that what led you to Speakeasy?
That's right. I took their class. I took their 101, and then because at the end of the class there is a performance, right? So I took their class, and then I perform. I took their class 3 times, so I get to perform 3 times. That's how I got started.
I think I have seen you in one of those, maybe even your first, but I remember seeing you in the class performance for a 101 class.
Yes.
For those of you who may not know, that Speakeasy DC is an organization here that's grown over 10 or 12 years in Washington, where people come, they take classes or somewhat to a theme, and they tell it's all personal story. So that's how you start. How did you fit into the class? How did that class feel for you?
I learned so much from the class. That's why I went back twice. Because I learned how to structure. Well, the first thing I learned was how to uncover story idea for my life. Because if people ask me to tell a story if people just tell me that you have interesting story in your life, I would say, no, my life is boring. How can I come up with interesting story? But in fact, all of us have interesting story from our life. We just don't know how to uncover it and don't know how to tell it yet. And Speak Easy give you the tool or tell you how to do that.
Well, now stop there and tell us one or two of the tools that helped you with your first story. How did you grasp that first story you wanted to tell?
Yes, for instance, one exercise we did in Speak Easy class was the teacher wanted us to take a blank paper and then separate your life into like before your 20s, after your 20s, and later on, or in your teens. And then in each period, write down the person who leave an impression on you.
Oh,
the
interesting
person.
approach.
Yes. So you have 3 segments before 20, maybe after 20, before 40, and after 40. In each segment, you have some people that impact your life in some way. The reason that you remember them is because they make a change in your life. Otherwise, you have forgotten already, right? And then they want you to think about what exactly made you to remember them, what exactly caused you to remember them until this day.
So what happened?
What happened? Yeah, that's right. So persons. And then they ask you to write down what place that you visited that you still remember, that you leave an impressions. So place that change you. And then they ask you to write down events. What events that happened that you still remember, right? So you write down places, people, things that happen in your life that you still remember. The reason that you remember them is because they are impactful. They change you in some way. And you talk about the change, the things, and what change it caused, it bring about. And that's a story.
That must have been really have opened up a whole world of opportunity for you as far as creating stories.
That's right.
What did you create out of that?
The first story I created was my involvement in the Tiananmen Square protest movement.
Aha.
Yes, it's literally one of the biggest events in my life that eventually caused me to decide to come to the U.S. So it changed my life in a way. So it's almost a turning point in my life. And when they asked me to write down the event that changed your life, that's the first thing that popped into my mind.
Right.
Yes.
That was a moment in history that
That's
affected millions of people.
That's right.
So there must be millions of other stories out there too. We'll hope that they capture theirs.
That's right,
Some of
yes.
those other people capture theirs.
Yes.
When did you come to the United States?
I came here in 1992 on a scholarship to study mathematics in Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And what's interesting is when I was telling the story on stage, after the performance, there is a middle-aged man come to me and he introduced himself as, I'm Tom Murphy, the mayor of Pittsburgh.
How delicious.
Yeah, that's right. That was my mayor, and he was sitting there listening to my story.
Here in Washington?
In Washington, yes.
Yes. Do you know why he came that night?
He's no longer a mayor. He's working for, I think, a nonprofit in D.C., and he went there to support one of his friends, who is my classmate.
Oh, how neat.
He didn't expect to listen to a story about me leaving China and coming to his city.
To his Pittsburgh.
Yes.
But isn't that just another example of when you start telling stories or talking stories with people, that life has such serendipity in it. There are such connections.
That's right.
Small world connections.
That's right, yes.
Okay, so then you had the class, you took 3 classes so that you had 3 performances, but I know that you didn't stop there.
I did not. And then my teacher, Stephanie Garibaldi, he said, you're becoming a good storyteller, so why don't you tell a story on our main stage, Speak Easy's main stage. They host a monthly performance on, I think, the second Tuesday.
It is the second Tuesday.
Of every month. And I said, can I really do that? And she said, sure you can. So I did it. That was the first time I performed in front of like 300-400 people.
How did that feel for you?
Well, at first it was scary because I'm not sure if I can remember the words. So when other storytellers were telling on stage, I actually didn't listen to them. I was sitting down there and still rehearsing. No, please don't forget the lines. Don't forget the line. And I can hear my heart beeping. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And then it's my turn. I went on stage the light shine on me. I couldn't see anybody. And I can feel that this story was leaving my head. Like I was trying to grab the story back, don't leave me, don't leave me. And I said, what's the first line again? What's the first line again? And then I remember the first line. I said it. I remember the second line, the third line. And then the audience began to laugh. Mm-hmm. And I was so surprised. They laugh at my story. And I suddenly get this boost of energy. Mm-hmm. And I'm confident as well. Mm-hmm. I was filled with this confident energy that I just blast with it like easily. Like I don't lose any words. Just remember everything. And it was a great performance. And it was gave me so much confidence after that.
Now, one of the things, I know that feeling. I'm
Yeah.
sure that was wonderful.
Yeah.
That you initially thought about going to take the class
Mm-hmm.
because it would help your business.
Mm-hmm.
Has it helped your business? How has it helped your business?
It definitely helped my business.
Help you with your business?
Yes, helped me with my business.
Mm-hmm.
But I also fall in love with this art form. So I now, even without the business, I would do it forever.
Well, there's some people that have said, storytellers that tell all the time, et cetera. And I appreciate what you're saying. It is addicting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do it and you like it, as you
Mm-hmm.
obviously love it, then you want to keep doing more. You
Yes.
don't want to have it taken away from you.
Yes.
Do you tell same stories, or do you always feel like you have to have a new story?
I tell same story, but I try to come up with new story all the time, actually. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm invited to perform in a new venue, mm-hmm. then I try to come up with a new story. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I find that there's a lot of things in my life that is worth telling. If I put my mind to it, I can craft an interesting story from things that I've experienced, from people I've met, or from place I've been to, what I first learned in the Speak Easy class. There are many ways to come up with stories.
There are. There's one thing that's always interesting me too, and I hear people talking about it, and all storytellers grapple with it, that when you're telling personal story, there's that part at which you have to make it somewhat universal. Mm-hmm. It can't be just about you.
That's right.
How do you manage that?
I don't think I have to put much effort into that, because I'm a human being. If I tell the story that I've experienced, there are people out there who experience the same thing. That's the relatability part. So if your story, I've never been to Mars. I guess if I tell a story I've been to Mars, and nobody can relate to that.
Well, liars can.
Yeah. But my story, or my struggle with love, my kids, my business, my life coming to the U.S., there are a lot of elements that other people experience as well. They experience the same thing, and that's the relatability part of the story.
Do you think that that's why today it seems like that people really want to hear personal stories more than they want to hear old stories? They want to know how people are grappling with life today?
That's right. The personal story is much more relatable. Because if it's not relatable, you feel detached. You feel more emotionally detached. If you listen to a story of 18th century England, it might sound intellectually interesting, but emotionally it's more removed than if you're telling a story that is happening now, right? This storyteller experience the same thing as you experience now, then there's much more emotional connection.
Interesting way of looking at that.
Yes.
Michael, this is really an interesting conversation. I'm
Yes.
loving every minute of it, and I'm sure you are. And we're going to take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 68. I'm Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Hello. Welcome. I'm glad you stayed with us. Ellouise Schoettler, your host here, and we're with Michael
Zhuang.
Yes. And we're talking about storytelling. First, we've been talking about you as a storyteller, but you're doing something else now in storytelling at Pyramid Atlantic in Silver Spring. Tell us about that and how that started.
I started a short story slam with Jose Dominguez, who is the executive director of Pyramid Atlantic Art Center. We do it every other month, on the first Monday of every other month. And every time we have this event, we would invite 10 to 12 storytellers to come to this event, and they will compete for the title of the best short storyteller in DC. And the winner would get $100 as an award. The second place winner would get a $50 award.
Why did you name it, this pops through my mind, the best short storyteller in DC? It's
serendipity, because I was in a business trip to Philadelphia last year, and after meeting all my clients, at the end of the day, I said, you know what, better way to kill time than go to a storytelling event in Philadelphia.
So you went to the Philadelphia Slam.
That's right. I went there. I went there too early. I was like 1 hour ahead, and they were worried about they don't have enough competitor. And upon hearing that I'm a storyteller from DC, they said, you have to compete. You have to come join us. I said, no, I didn't come with a story. I have no story. And they insist, come tell your story. Whatever story will be good. Whatever story. I said, okay. So I took a napkin, because they held the slam on a restaurant. So I took a napkin. I went to the corner, and I began to write a story. Since I didn't have time, I didn't have paper to write down a long story, so I wrote a very short story, only 4 minutes long. And then I went up, tell my story. I made them laugh a lot. And at the end of the evening, lo and behold, I won.
Cinderella.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? There's a movie with Jerry Lewis that wasn't Cinderella. It was Cinderfella.
Cinderfella.
So you came and you were the Cinderfella. Yes.
Yeah, I was surprised. My story wasn't well rehearsed. I didn't have time to rehearse. It was short, but just because it's short, I didn't have time to rehearse. It forced me to focus on what's the crucial point of my story. It's forced me to really focus, and be very concise. And I realized a short story can be very powerful as well. And then when I came back to DC, I looked around for a venue for short story, and there was none. And I thought that, why don't I start something that provide a venue for people to practice their short story? And Jose and I went to Leadership Montgomery together. We are classmates in Leadership Montgomery. And during the class, we're encouraged to find things to do that would benefit the community, yes. And I said, yeah, Jose have a place. I have an idea. So I met him and talked about that. And he said, that's a good idea. Let's do it. So that's how I got started.
Well, good. Now, how's it been going?
It's getting strong. It's not that difficult to find storyteller, because I know a lot of good storytellers in these areas. So I usually just invite them. I have a theme. Like for instance, on May, our next show, the theme is mother. So I would tell the storyteller, if you have a story about mothers, and usually there are many people who have that stories, and then they come in and they compete. Yeah.
Okay, I think all right, now, what was it I was thinking? My question was going to be about that. There are a lot of storytellers. They're good storytellers here in Washington. What I'm really interested in knowing, and I'm sure people would be interested in as well, is how are you building your audience? How's your audience?
Storytellers, or the audience. Oh yeah, the audience. Jose's place is a relatively small venue. It can hold 40 to 50 people, and most of the time there are about 40 people come to my show.
That's very good.
Yes, if there are more than 50, then I have to change venue.
So how are you reaching those people, or what are you using to get the word out?
I use Facebook mostly, because there are a lot of followers of me on Facebook, and also, like if I invite someone to tell a story in the event in a slam, like Geraldine, I would ask her to share that with all her followers.
He's talking about a storyteller here in the Maryland area, Geraldine Buckley from Frederick. And so that's who he means when he says Geraldine.
That's right. So I encourage every storyteller that will appear in my slam to invite their friends and their followers on Facebook or whatever ways they can reach them. So it's not that difficult for them to bring about 2 or 3 people. So you have 10 or 12 storytellers, and each of them bring 2 or 3 friends to come. That's like 36 people already. And then I invite another 5 or 6, and then they will add up to about 40
Well, now,
people.
how do people apply, or do they just show up, or do you have to know them before you invite them?
I don't know them because it's like my storytellers invite them. I invite my friends, and the storytellers invite their friends.
No, I mean the storytellers that are going to tell a story. How does that happen?
I invite them myself.
Okay.
Because I have a roster of over 100 storytellers, and I just let them know what's the next themes. And many of them are just very excited to come to my slam. So they're just waiting for the right theme, right? Once I give them the theme, they would know if they have a good story or not. And also most of my theme are not generic actually. Like mother, everybody has a mother, and I'm sure that everybody can remember something that their mother did to them that leaves some impression. I think. I hope that everybody's mother changed something, like made something different in their life. So
Right.
So I don't think it's a difficult theme to tell a story.
Yeah. All right. So in other words, then you produce it and you send out the invitations to the storytellers once they've let you know that they have a story on the theme.
Yes.
And then you have your own way of getting out to the public.
Yes.
And then you rely on the persons who are going to perform to also let their networks know.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yes. That's
Good.
right.
And so you feel that this is working.
It's working. Yes.
Yeah. Is there a fee?
Oh yes. There's a $10 entrance fee for the audience. Actually, for the storyteller as well. So whoever come to the venue, they pay $10 entrance. But Jose, he prepare wines. He prepare nibbles. So it's a good service.
Well, it's a social event.
It's a social event.
More
yes.
than just a performance. It's a social event. So
Yes.
there's time to get to know people.
Yes, and also because it's in an art centers, there are many artistic pieces on display. So when you go there, before you listen to any story, you can walk around and just enjoy all the arts, and you can have conversation with your friends, new friend, old friends. So it's I think it's worth the $10 that people put.
Well,
up
it
with.
certainly sounds like
Yes.
it. Not pushing you about that. I'm really just trying to get out all the information. So it's the first Monday
Yes.
of the month, every other month.
Every other month.
So if it's May, will you have July? Or are you going to take a vacation for the summer?
No, I think I'm going to have a July show as well. A July, September, November. Yes.
Well, I think it's wonderful, that when I heard that you were doing that, I thought, this is great. That
Yes.
we can't have too many opportunities in this area to expose the public to storytelling and to have more opportunities for storytellers.
Yes.
That's all good. Very good, as a matter
Yes.
of fact. Do you like to work from a theme that someone else prescribes, or do you like to just think in terms of like the example from the class? Say I say, okay, what's your next story? You don't have to tell me the story, but how would you go about it?
Next story theme or next story?
Your next story.
I don't know yet. Actually, I don't know what my next story. But I guess because I'm going to perform this month at Better Said Than Done, and their theme is about death and tax. I'm going to come up with some story around that theme, but I don't know what it is yet.
Will you choose death or will you choose taxes?
I would most likely choose death.
Why is that?
Because recently, something happened to a client of mine that sort of have some impact on me. She used to be very loud, and then one day she gave me a call, and she was whimpering, and I was wondering what's happening to her, and then she said her husband just died.
Let's stop there because you don't want to give it away. I think that.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes.
That sounds like it's going to be a very interesting story.
Yes.
Very, very touching.
It's
story.
not even crafted yet. So I'm just.
That's what I'm saying. But you know, one of the things is I always want to tell out the ideas that I'm thinking about,
yes.
and then I think, oh no, why did I do that? So
that's right,
I'm
yes.
going to protect you
yes.
for a moment. I'm going to protect you. What's the next thing? We're running out of time. Sorry, we're running out of time. Is that what's the next thing that you would like to do with storytelling?
That's a very good question. I don't know yet.
Well, you know, better that you say the truth or that you don't know yet than to make up something that possibly can't work.
I really want to make these story fest at Pyramid Atlantic really a good event that people in this area know about and really enjoyed it. They can really help to build up the storytelling communities.
We're going to help with that, aren't we?
Yes.
That you've said that on this program, and we know that the first Monday of the month. And what's the address of Pyramid Atlantic in Silver Spring? It's Georgia Avenue, I believe.
In Georgia Avenue, I can't.
Just look up Pyramid Atlantic. You'll be so surprised at what they do there. Michael, thank you so much for coming. It's been delightful.
Me too. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. And so we'll hope to see you at Pyramid Atlantic or at other, events. And don't forget, this summer there will be the Capitol Fringe in downtown D.C. 150 or better shows. You don't want to miss a one of those. Thank you very much.